Travelers on the Omnibus occasionally touches on mature subject matter with mature language. As such, the audience discretion is advised. We're back. It's Travelers on the Omnibus, ladies and gentlemen, a field trip through nerd and pop culture. My name is James McCarthy.
I'm Brady Davis. I guess we're going in this direction.
I'm Ethan Skinner. I guess we're skipping over the other
changing
one.
it up. Changing it up.
We're hip hopping.
Yeah.
The wild
Not
card.
hip hop though.
Mm-hmm.
I came across a dark black road. Wait a minute. I'm in the studio.
Don't spoil it. Don't spoil it.
I'm Jody Kite.
We're gonna spoil it later, but don't spoil it just now.
Yeah.
There you go. So I'm going to start out. You know, the host never starts out, but I'm going to start out this week. So this week has been mostly a musical week for me as far as Gallivantery and what have you. This Saturday premiering, recorded live, but premiering on HBO Max this past Saturday was The Weeknd live at SoFi Stadium. I've ingested this now twice. Once at work, just the audio stuff. I just set the phone aside, just let The Weeknd's chill vibes take me through about an hour and a half of my job. If you're having problems, if you're having problems at your job, put The Weeknd on and you'll be fine. Just don't play Heartless. HR will be calling.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say that right now. And then Tuesday night after work, we were putting together models over at my buddy's John's
How did
house.
you like the concert, man? I mean, you didn't...
I'm okay. I explained first the audio. Then I finally got to watch it on Tuesday night.
Gotcha.
As I was putting together models, I wasn't segueing into models. Somebody else at this table will be doing that here shortly. But fantastic concert. He knows pomp and circumstance. Like if you've seen the halftime show he did in Tampa Bay a couple years ago at the Super Bowl, I love that show. It's my second favorite all time behind U2's. And U2 is more for sentimental reasons.
Right.
One, because it was the first show after 9/11, and second, it was in New Orleans.
Right.
So those things
That's a lot of stuff.
Those things spool together for me. But this was a fantastic concert. If you've got HBO Max, there's no reason not to watch this. There just isn't. He is at the top of his game right now. In my opinion, if he's not the number one pop star in the world right now, Taylor Swift is, and that's actually a pretty good 1-2 combination at the top.
For sure.
Because
both incredible performers.
Performers, incredible songwriters. People like
that new anti-hero song of hers, that shit slaps.
Yeah,
That shit
absolutely.
slaps.
I'd have to agree.
100%. And they have the freedom to be able to express themselves, I think, the way that they want to. Like, they're not beholden to... They and I think they've done enough, and I think their record companies see they've done enough. It's like, okay, they know what they're doing. We're going to stay out of this. The one criticism I hear about him is like he's too auto-tuned. I'm like, he auto-tunes to accentuate things. Watch him live. He can hit the shit if he wanted to. But there's effects he wants to put on his voice that I think makes the song
To
better.
be honest, if you say that, then that's every pop star just about. Like auto-tune is...
Every studio recording
Pop nowadays is like filthy with auto-tune.
Hang on. What I mean to say is people with a 35 plus age bracket are going to go, but it's like you didn't hear like Whitney Houston doing that stuff. One, I wonder if she would have.
Right.
Just in case, God forbid she didn't survive long to get what if she would have later, and what kind of creativity you could have done with that. The people who are auto-tuned because they cannot sing do exist. I'm not going to deny that.
Right.
The Weeknd is not one of them.
Right.
He is a solid performer, a solid singer, solid songwriter. I love Abel Tesfaye's work start to finish.
Even the main guy who got criticism for auto-tune, T-Pain can sing.
Yeah,
Like,
he won did he win the Masked Singer?
Season 1 of Masked Singer.
Yeah, he won the Masked Singer without any sort of help.
But again, it's the artist trying to create different sounds. If it works that way, then absolutely work.
Right.
Now, if it doesn't work, call it out.
And what I really mean when I said that was that you're thinking of auto-tune as like an effect that you put on as a special thing. Auto-tune just pitch correcting and shit like that is lousy in pop music. So even the people, those older people probably aren't listening to any of that, but even the people a lot of the people who you don't think are using auto-tune are using auto-tune auto-tune was made to be used. So it's there, you just can't hear it. That's what I would say about that.
There you go. My second musical experience this week, I was coming home from work Monday night. and I had YouTube music on, and I just started playing stuff. And I was actually listening to, of all things, Sammy Hagar's heavy metal. The one from his actual album, where he actually worked on the song a little bit more, and there's a lot more to the intro, and he adds this whoosh sound effect to the very. It's like heavy metal noise, and then someone goes whoosh, and what is going on? And that was cool. And then I'm just driving, and I'm about to hit the Ocean Springs Biloxi Bridge, and then I start listening to something. It's like, I've heard this before. What is this? This is my ass is on fire. Oh God, it's in my algorithm. Mr. Bungle's in my algorithm.
Oh man, you poor thing.
Yeah, there you go.
Luckily, I haven't come across. It hasn't. The listening to these albums haven't fucked up my algorithm.
Thank God, at least one of us. There we go.
But mostly, what I do is listen to random certain things on Amazon Music. I don't usually put on my.
So I can't
soundtrack.
I can't wait for AI to jam The Weeknd and Mr. Bungle into one song together and see what happens.
I don't even want to hear that.
Jesus Christ, that sounds
There you go.
terrible.
Brady, my old and dear friend. What have you been up to?
Yeah, the week before I had bought some new war bands for Warcry, the Jade Obelisk and the Hunters of Huan Chi.
And this is something that I wasn't clear on. Is that the ones that come out of the big box? Or
they were in a big box originally with terrain and everything, but now you can just get them separately.
Okay, cool.
That's how they kind of do with all their stuff. Like everything that you could have gotten in a big box, later on it comes in a smaller box. And I got it with Holder from Whiskey and Wrestling on Sunday. I kind of sat in for. I wasn't on the podcast, but I was there because I didn't want to have to deal with all the bullshit that's happening in wrestling. I told him I'd leave that to professionals. But afterwards, we played a game. Holder was the Jade Obelisk. I was the Hunters. I know I'm not very good at the game, but I'm really not good with those guys because they play really differently than what I'm used to playing. Because they're all like really they're skinks, so they're really small and they have low toughness. Their weapons don't hit very hard. It's very hard to actually get hits on people. It's very easy for you to get hits. Like they're all like toughness 3 is like the heaviest one, and that's a very low toughness. All their dark pipes have like strength 1. So you're hitting on 5s and 6s most of the time, pretty much every time. So yeah, they're more of to be like a hit and run thing. Like they don't ever want to actually be in. They just want to harass the people. But I didn't do that. So
because I asked for a debriefing after the end of that game, and then guys kind of outlined it. And I thought of them more along the lines of, they would be better suited, in my opinion, after looking it up a little bit, kind of like roaming the outside of the map.
Yeah.
And then once they've kind of softened it up, then plunging in for it. But in a skirmish game with a map that small, is even being at the outside far enough away for them?
I think that you can, especially against like slower teams, you could do something. I'm just not good at that style of play. They're cool models, I really,
I want to get them just to paint them.
Yeah, they're a really cool, and there's a pretty good variety, even though they're all like chameleon skinks, but they all like there's a good variety of models in there. I want to play the Jade Obelisk because I think I like their play style a little bit better. But yeah, so that was one thing. So I watched a movie that I had bought because one of my favorite directors, not just directors from Korea, but just directors period, is Park Chan-wook. I love quite a few of his movies, and but I haven't watched all of them. And one of them that I heard about that was very interesting is an older movie of his made in about 2001, I think, called JSA, Joint Security Area.
Don't you mean Justice Society of America? No. I now want a Park Sang-wook Justice Society of America.
I would watch that
as the sequel to his original JSA.
Yes. This takes place on the North-South Korean border. A South Korean officer is found in just across the border in North Korean territory, and he has apparently killed 2 North Korean officers. So they get a neutral party, the Swiss, apparently, and they get a girl to come in, and this woman to come in, and even though she is clearly Korean and has only ever lived in Korea. They say, oh, she's Swiss. Her dad was Swiss and her mom was like Korean. They did the same thing in Shin Godzilla. They said this woman grew up in America and she clearly English was her second language, not her first language, but whatever. And she comes in to investigate. And when you find out, like, it's not really like a mystery. It's hard to explain exactly what it is because they kind of tell you what happens about halfway through. They let you see the sequence of events that lead up to everything. But it's really, really good. Like the main South Korean guy, he is played, I don't remember these guys' names, I'm sorry. But he's played by the guy the main character in I Saw the Devil, if y'all watch that. And then the main North Korean guy who lives, he was the dad in Parasite. He was also in The Host from Bong Joon-ho. He's been in a lot of he's like a very well-known he was in Memories of Murder. He's been in a lot. He's a very, very well-known Korean actor. But the acting was very, very good. It was an interesting movie. It's not my favorite Park Chan-wook by far. It's kind of low on that totem pole, but it's still a pretty good movie. And the last thing, so one of my favorite bands is the Gorillaz. I fucking love the Gorillaz. And they had a new album come out this Thursday, Friday, whatever. I listened to it like on Friday, called Cracker Island. I've heard a few, and everything that I'd heard from this is pretty good. Was pretty good. I really liked it. I really liked the lead single, the titular track. They had another song called Silent Running, which was really good. New Gold, I really, really liked. So I got to listen to the whole thing. It's pretty good. I really liked it. The lore of this one is that they start a cult and things go awry. But yeah, it's pretty good. It's a very breezy album. Like it's only like 40 minutes. Like most of the songs are like 4-ish minutes at the most, and they go by really quick. It's hard to describe because it's hard to describe a Gorillaz.
Right.
It's hard to describe a Gorillaz album. But it's a pretty light album. It's not as like dark as say like Demon Days or something like that. Some other standouts. They actually have a song with Stevie Nicks called Oil, which is really good. That's one of my favorite ones. And towards the end of the album, there's a song called Skinny Ape, which is really, really good. I really liked it. So if you like Gorillaz, there's new music out there. If you like just reading up on all the lore of Gorillaz, they've got a couple of there's like I watched a little video that went through like the sequence of events and things like that. And
right.
You can see some of that. There's 2 music videos out for Silent Running and Cracker Island. So yeah, they got some. It seems like there was less features in this one. It felt like kind of, or maybe it was just not features that I was super interested in, like Bad Bunny's in one, and I don't hate Bad Bunny. I just don't like. It's not my type of stuff.
Most of the vocals done by the lead singer from Blur, 2D. From Damon Albarn. I think so. I don't know exactly.
He's
been making music since 1990 with Blur, and then after that, with Gorillaz.
Gorillaz is shit. I was in like 9th grade when
I believe that album came out in 2001 or 2002, first album.
So it's like over 20 years.
And then it was like another, I think the second album came out in like 2005 or 2006.
There was a gap between the first one.
It was like 5 years.
Because it was Gorillaz. It was the first one was named Gorillaz, and then the second one, Demon Days, came out. It came out almost when I was around the time that I was in no, it was after that, I think, maybe.
I tend to think because I got Gorillaz, you're right, 2001. I was almost completely out of law school by then, so we're talking like 4 years later. So like base 2005, maybe 2006.
Yeah, I think 2000. I want to say it was 2005.
It was 5 or 6 probably
when Demon Days came out, because I remember Feel Good.
The Boys on Buzzing.
Demon Days came out in 2005. Gorillaz came out in 2001.
Yep. 100% correct.
Pretty much right. Yep.
I want to say
our memories aren't complete shit.
Well, not when it comes to music. I want to say that I saw the video for Feel Good Incorporated on a thing that doesn't exist anymore, which was the International Music Feed, which is a music channel that was on satellite only. That was really fucking cool. But
Well, I watched the first Gorillaz music video on something that doesn't exist anymore, and that's MTV actually showing music
Clint
videos.
Eastwood. I remember
Clint
that
Eastwood.
video. That video came out, and everybody that I knew at the time would like shit in their pants.
I saw some,
yeah.
and I'm not 100% sure because the number to me was preposterous, whatever. But I thought I saw something like they produced 2,200 hours of ridiculousness last year.
Yeah,
that seems like a ridiculous number.
That's a lot.
I know that the number was strange and large and weird.
Yeah,
and I don't think it was that much, but yeah, like it's literally the Rob Dyrdek network now.
Yeah,
oh yeah,
they
there's
just have a few things
YouTube
that they
essay
do.
videos about that.
Yeah.
But anyway, Gorillaz though, like
But yeah,
every 5 or
Gorillaz-
so years they have an album or something like that.
They started coming out a little bit quicker after Demon Days. There was a big,
yeah.
excuse me, there was that big gap between the first and the second one, and then Plastic Beach, which I still haven't gotten around to actually listening to because when it came out, I was not like, it was a little bit harder to just, I couldn't just go on my phone and say, oh, Amazon. And I still just, for some reason, like there are some things where I just don't go back to. So
I think also like Blur took a big break, so like the side project became his main focus.
This is basically like his main thing. And it's really amazing that they've been going for that long and it's still like fresh music and interesting things. Like the last album was Song Machine Volume 1, and it was more of like a singles. Like they set it up to every song was basically set up as a single.
I remember they had a video for almost every
they
one
didn't
of the
like the important thing wasn't like cohesiveness in an album, and this one it's a little bit more cohesive. There are some themes with this one that are similar to when they did Humans. I didn't like every song in this, but Gorillaz, like they're so varied in their album. Like I don't like every Gorillaz song, but the songs that I like, I really really like.
And I could say the same for Blur. If you liked Blur at all, like if you're like, man, I like this song by this band over here, I hope the rest of the album is gonna sound like that. Nope, it's not. Yeah. It's not even gonna sound anywhere close to it. One disco song, and then and that's it. That's all you get from Blur.
Song 2, which for a lot of people is the most famous Blur song, at least on this side of the pond.
Right.
That was written as a kind of a stick in the ribs to alternative music.
Well, they did the same thing with Boys and Girls. That was their first their first single that popped was on Park Life. Which is funny. Park Life, the single didn't do as well, but Boys and Girls is like they're making fun of techno and house music.
Okay.
But it topped, which is hilarious,
That kind of reminds me, because Jody, you mentioned it. Reminds me of Plastic Bertrand and Sapin pour moi, which was a take on the punk scene done by a kind of like would you call Plastic Bertrand experimental pop?
I call it proto new wave because
that's fair.
It came out right before the romantic and the new wave movement in the 70s, because that song came out in 77, which is like a year after the Pistols.
Yeah. Yeah, that song was meant to again be a lampooning of punk music, and then became a punk anthem for Europe.
It's a year before Blondie.
Yeah.
Before Blondie became a punk band, not just a disco band.
Yeah. But it's always nice when like things that are meant to like lampoon or spoof of stuff actually become part of the genre. And like I always love the fact that Bring Me to Life is considered a Christian song, and Amy Lee always has to what do we have to do here? I swear to God. Ethan, before you turn into a pumpkin again, how have you been? What has your week been like?
I've been pretty good. Before I go into what I've been doing, I saw Sleep Token announced that they're going to be having their the next album released on May 19th.
I saw that.
Take Me Back to Eden.
Oh, it's going to be an anniversary of Ice Cream Man, aka See No Evil with Kane.
Oh Jesus.
May 19th.
Yeah, I saw that on my on Amazon Music. It showed me
you saw that on your direct feed for everything.
You can look. You can actually on Amazon. You could look at like the full track list.
Oh, that's cool.
You can't like listen to everything, but you can look at what the names of the songs are, and they're interesting.
So I thought I'd throw that out there while we're still talking about music.
And the fact that y'all are still civil for right now. Yeah, understandable.
I haven't been doing a whole too lot. This past Saturday, the Hattiesburg Zoo had their Renaissance Festival up there. So me and Bianca, we went up there with some of her cousins. I got to see the giraffes start neck fighting, where they're just swinging their necks all about.
I'm glad they've upgraded from just having the one monkey.
That means that there's a That means that somewhere there's a female that those two were wanting to fuck. So that's what that meant. So you should have stayed longer for the coitus.
It's very awkward since there were only 2 giraffes there. So
That's not awkward depending on what you're into.
To be fair, we did a lot of near giraffe fucking with the heavy metal review.
Near giraffe fucking. Our next T-shirt.
So how'd you like the
which would be
the
our
Hattiesburg
first
Zoo?
T-shirt?
Yeah. Jesus Christ. So Ethan, how'd you like the Hattiesburg Zoo? I have like a nostalgia for that because I grew up around Hattiesburg, so I'm familiar with that as it's gone through its changes.
I think this is like the second time in my entire life I've been to the zoo.
Yeah.
The first time also being the Hattiesburg Zoo.
That's the only zoo you've ever been to?
Yeah.
We need to get you over to New Orleans in the Audubon Zoo.
Wow.
Yeah, I've had
It's a proper zoo over there.
That'll be
Yeah.
our first omnibus field trip, even though we are already a field trip.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
No, it
Yeah,
was,
you need to go to more zoos.
I'm sorry, I had a poor childhood.
I had a poor childhood too, but I went to zoos.
This got real quick. Oh my god.
Some zoos have sections of them that don't smell like shit.
A shit-free zoo, never heard of.
Mm.
But no, it was.
There was I'm sorry. You talk about smell. Well, I can't remember where it was at. I went with my aunt to one zoo, and they had like these like coyotes or like jackals or something, but they smelled like they excreted. No, it wasn't shit. They excreted this pheromone thing that like smelled horrible, and you could never see them because it was kind of like the raptors in Jurassic Park where it was
kind of hidden,
where it was like all this hidden
but
shit.
You could smell the funk.
You just saw this big area of trees with a fence around it, and you just smelled this nasty ass smell. And I was like, "What
smell
the
these
fuck
coyotes?"
is this for?
Could you also like see the stink lines with the flies?
Basically, you pretty much
Got stink ghosts. Oh my
Smell
god.
the coyotes.
like you just walk through the entrance of the zoo, and you're like, "Oh, there's the stink jackal area. I can see it from here. Follow the trail."
So this is why you weren't at work on Saturdays, because you had to check out the stink ghosts.
Yeah.
Yeah,
at
the stink
Hattiesburg
ghosts.
Zoo.
They're much more exciting
Mm-hmm.
than
There
they
you
were.
go.
Why pet the animals when you can smell them from a distance?
I think it might have been in like North Alabama. I can't. Maybe not Birmingham.
That
I don't
checks.
think, but like
Yeah.
Montgomery, maybe. I don't know.
Come smell the alligators.
But anyway, I'm sorry. I had to tell that story when you talked about smells.
Jared and Kevin, why does North Alabama stink so much? I'm leaving that in.
Okay.
I might.
Don't quote me on that. I can't. It might not have been there. It was-
No, they can quote me.
Yeah.
They can quote me. I hard quoted that one right there.
But it was a pretty good time. We saw some of the they had like Shakespearean plays going off while
okay.
we were eating.
I thought you were about
Involving
to say
the giraffes.
Shakespearean
Oh man,
animals.
they dressed they put that little frilly thing around
Yeah.
the giraffe's
Yeah,
neck.
there you go.
Praise Aslan.
Not involving giraffes, but it was set up awfully close to the giraffes.
The combination of that story with. So there's a YouTuber called Mandalore Gaming. He has a podcast called Please Stop Talking with a bunch of other funny guys. But he told a story called Dear Aslan, and it's one of the reasons why I named him my YouTuber of last year, because it's one of the funniest stories I've ever heard. And now I can't stop thinking about that. Ethan, did you have anything else you wanted to add? Because I'm just gonna put it on him for the main event.
Other thing we did up in Hattiesburg, we went to this place called the Lucky Rabbit, which is kind of like an antiques bargain slash thrift store.
Okay.
Because I can
That's a
think of
place I'm not
another.
familiar
I
with.
think I can think of another business that you could call the Lucky Rabbit. I was concerned there for a minute,
Jesus Christ.
but it was an antique store. How
Could be a casino.
quaint.
Could be a strip club.
I'm just gonna pass it along. My
No,
Saturday was the only
finish your
interesting
story
week.
about your antique front whorehouse in the back business that you went to. I apologize to the Lucky Rabbit. You're probably a wonderful establishment.
the code word you have to use is wooden nickels. You got any wooden nickels? And then they take you to the back.
I don't want to think about having sex with someone named Wooden Nickels. The guy.
No, that's not their name. That's the code word to get into the back.
My diseased brain would mix those two
We're
together.
still in Mississippi where, they really
where
look
it's
down.
made of wooden nickels.
Where
Like,
basically.
you
Yeah.
just go up to the counters like, I'm looking for some wooden nickels, and they
Oh,
throw
an
up a
STD
photo,
would be called splinters.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Those will give you splinters. And then well, now is not a good time.
Yeah.
She's got to go get her shots.
She's
Like she's a giraffe. It's a full circle.
hanging out with
It's a full
Pinocchio too
circle.
much.
No,
She's got
the
splinters.
penicillin to get rid of the
Splinters.
Splinters.
the STDs.
I'm gonna pass it along to the. I don't think I should pass it along to the host anymore.
Yeah, but I'm the host, so
Exactly. I don't know.
yeah.
What, I don't think I should pass it along.
Don't
to you.
pass it to me. Pass it to him. He's got the main event.
Hey Jody, what have you been doing?
I went to go see a movie last Thursday.
I went to go see a movie.
Oh, that's weird.
So did I.
Oh,
The movie was set in 1985. Wonderful new wave rock and roll 1985 in Chattahoochee, Tennessee,
and Northern Georgia.
and
Yeah.
northern Georgia. Some say bears are scary. I say that's true, but also bears on cocaine are even scarier. And we all went to see Cocaine Bear,
Cocaine Bear.
Cocaine Bear.
Cocaine Bear.
loosely based on a true
Very
story.
Extremely.
The
loosely.
only true thing is that some guy threw a bunch of cocaine out. A bear ate it. The reality is the bear instantly died because that's what happened when you eat a shitload of cocaine, even
But
if you're a
thankfully,
bear.
that 5-minute movie didn't happen.
Yeah.
So
we got the story.
our
everyone
our,
wanted.
our senses were overloaded with ridiculous, over-the-top violence. The kind of movie that I needed in my life for
I've
sure.
heard good
Yes.
things about this movie.
I'm so happy right now that it's doing well enough to where they're gonna try and make a Cocaine Bear 2 at some point.
Yeah.
It's doing so well that the Asylum has come out with Meth Gator.
Meth
Meth
Gator.
Gator, yeah, that's why I saw.
Yeah.
That's okay. They don't have the budget at Universal.
I'm still pulling for LSD rhinoceros.
Hell
That's what
yeah.
Oh my God, Cocaine Bear's now a Universal monster.
Yes.
Frankenstein versus Cocaine Bear. Book it.
Dude.
So a funny thing a funny story that I heard. I can't remember the guy's name, but the guy in the beginning,
The Swedish dude.
the guy who throws the cocaine out. That's the guy from he's in The Americans
Oh, okay.
as well, I think. Right? Kerry Russell got the script.
Right.
Then he read the script.
While they were on the American set. Oh,
No,
this is.
I think they're friends or something. Somehow because she had the script.
Well, they
he
worked
got-
together for almost like
He got
8
to read it.
years.
Yeah. He immediately called up Elizabeth Banks and was like, "You have to put me in this movie as this guy in the beginning."
Yeah. Oh, it's great. Like
The dude's like tossing out packages of cocaine out of the plane while he's like dancing the music.
minor spoiler. Very minor spoiler because it happens almost
Everything's been
immediately.
spoiled for. I've listened to reviews of this several times.
But I think general recommendation is go now.
Oh,
Watch
yeah.
it. Like
I've heard good things about it.
This isn't a wait for it on streaming. Just go now.
That bear consumed a lot of cocaine, and the trailer
And kept doing it.
and the trailer doesn't do it justice for the amount of cocaine the bear consumes. And I'd like to thank the Hollywood gods that this is Ray Liotta's last movie.
Yeah.
So I was like, is that Ray Liotta? I thought
Yeah.
he died.
The first time you see him, Patti Smith in the Scandals, The Warrior is on, which that warmed my heart. I was very happy about that.
Oh,
Yeah.
the soundtrack was fucking slapping.
Yeah. Another thing, Ray Liotta supplied all the cocaine. So-
Hell yeah.
Speaking
That
of-
checks.
Whenever we were watching the movie, the opening theme, whenever the guy's throwing all the cocaine out, and I looked at it later, it's Jane.
Yeah.
Orange Cassidy's opening.
Interest music.
Yeah.
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 Also-
I thought that was very interesting.
Also, what was it? I'm losing my goddamn brain again. If I shut right the fuck off. Oh yeah, they were watching the regular edition. I was watching the special edition of Cocaine Bear because sitting to my left was one Eddie Camper, who, oh my God, Cocaine Bear, yes, Cocaine Bear while watching it with Eddie Camper. 10 out of 1. 100 out of 10. Say 10 times better. 10 times better.
Yes.
Now, what's not 10 times better than Cocaine Bear, Jody?
So Jay was like, I want to go to IHOP, and everybody's like, IHOP actually sounds like a pretty good idea.
Yep.
And so the IHOP is right across from the Grand 18,
Yep.
or Grand 16. One of those two.
18.
The Grand Theater, D'Iberville,
Yeah.
Mississippi.
Yes.
So it's within walking distance. So Jay walked over there. Me, Ethan, and Ethan's lovely girlfriend Bianca. We all went over there. We sat down and we're like, let's get a round of sweet teas. So
Yes.
we're sitting there, and it's about like 5 after 9 or 10 after 9.
It's just at 9.
It's just at 9. Whatever.
It's now 8:55.
They close at 10. Well, we didn't know that, but whatever. We sat down, and she's like, "Here's your menus."
We didn't know that because the door was posted open 24 hours.
Yes.
It did say that. It did say that. There was nobody in the parking lot, and there was nobody else inside.
Yeah.
She's
So,
the only person we have seen.
Yeah, she's the only person we see. So we go in, we sit down, we say like sweet teas all around. So we're sitting there, and she's like, "All right, here's the menus or whatever. I'll be back in a second." She's back in like 30 seconds. She's like, "Do you know what you want?" And we're like, "Give us just a minute. There's more of us." It's just like, "Okay, I just want to let you know that there's no chicken." Okay, that's where that stops. Okay, so she's like, "There's no chicken," and me and Ethan both like telepathically wanted
Well,
like
chicken and
waffle and chicken,
waffles.
Yeah.
chicken and waffles.
So now all they had was and waffles.
So I was sitting there and I was like, look at she's like, "Okay, I'll be right back," or whatever. And I'm looking there and I'm like, French toast is like 12 for 2 slices. So I'm like, probably not that. And I'm like, ooh, slab of ham. Not even like 5 seconds after I say that, she comes out of the fucking kitchen. She goes, "Hey, are you guys ready to order?" We're like, "We're almost ready to order. By the way, we're out of ham and steak, but not chicken fried steak." Or was it the other way around?
No. No. I want to stress he is exactly correct.
Yeah.
She said we're out of ham. Oh, so then I made the response of, "Oh, well, do you at least have steak?" We have steak, but we don't have chicken fried steak. How the fuck is that possible? You don't have? Do you not have flour?
So-
what are you making the fucking pancakes with? God damn it!
I then posed the question: do you have at least have beef? Because I might want a burger. And she's like, "Yes, we do have beef." I'm like, "Okay, cool. That's still an option."
Okay, so we're like, okay, we need even more time now. We need more time to figure out what we have because our options are like halved now. To the point where I'm like, do they even have pancakes? So
Again, they don't have country fried steak. They might not have
we
flour.
joke. We joke later before I end this part of the conversation. Before part of the story, we joke later. Like, is she just going back to the cook back there and being like, "Hey, let's just keep making up shit that we don't have, so they get the fuck out of here."
Yeah.
Probably.
She comes back out again. She's like, "Are you guys ready to order?" By the way, we don't have this. And then I'm like, you know what? I think we're gonna go somewhere else. And Jay's like, "I'll pay for the teas." The teas were $4.
$4 a piece.
Jesus Christ.
$4. They don't say that on the menu. I think it's if you just do the teas by themselves, they do an upcharge for
that's
for like a
ridiculous.
drink only upcharge. I don't fucking know.
$4.
$12 in tea came out of my pocket because I was the one I suggested. If you suggest the place and it doesn't work out, you should foot at least some of the bill for.
See, I could have told you that that's an ass IHOP because last time I went there, we had a big party and it completely wrecked this poor girl, and they had more flies than food there. So
Because it's
and they were also out of like every fucking thing as well.
Because it's D'Iberville on a Thursday, which, by the way, D'Iberville, there's a lot of shit over there.
And particularly at the promenade.
There's a lot of shit over there. Everything closes at 9 or 10. And so we're trying to like process of elimination to figure out where we're going to eat. And I'm like, I've heard bad things about Buffalo Wild Wings, but we're like, fuck it, let's go over there.
Yeah. Well, and again, because what put it over was, let's go to Buffalo Wild Wings. I will take the hit. If you do not like your food, I will pay for it.
We go over to Buffalo Wild Wings, and our server was awesome, by the way.
Yes.
And our server comes over to the table, and me and Jay are talking about wings or whatever, and the server's like, "Oh, by the way, in case you didn't know, it's buy one, get one free on the wings."
Yeah.
So if you buy an order of 6, you get an order of 6.
Yeah.
If you buy an order of 12, you get another order of 12 for
Thursday,
free.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, deal.
Yeah.
Boom. Game on.
Our food was there in like no time.
Yeah, the cheese curds were fucking fantastic.
They were great. The
Amazing
fucking
cheese.
cheese
For a very
fries.
long time, the Buffalo Wild Wings in D'Iberville was very bad.
Mm-hmm.
The last couple of times that I went there, it was bad. But this last time that I went, which was like last month, it was actually pretty good.
It was good when we went.
Yeah.
One, and this was honestly, the chicken could have been a little moister. It could have,
Right.
it was
It
a
was a
little
little
dry.
it's
It
not
was
gonna
dry, but it wasn't bad dry.
Mm-hmm.
It was still good. You had the orange chicken.
I had the orange chicken. It was delicious.
It was great. I had the classic buffalo, which for them is actually one of their hotter sauces.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was fantastic. I think you had
I got the buffalo chicken sandwich, which is like a mild
And-
buffalo sauce.
and B got the chicken
wraps.
Chicken wraps.
Yeah,
And
chicken wraps good.
Everything was good.
Fantastic.
Everything was good.
The food was good. Service was fantastic.
And it was actually really
It's got-
reasonably priced.
Yeah.
It's gotten better than what it used to be. Like it had gone downhill for even when we were going there for trivia for like when we started, before the pandemic, like it was starting to like not get too great. And then earlier in the year when I had went a couple of times because the kids wanted to go, I did not have a good time with mine. Like my burger would be like absolutely soaked, like the bun would be soaked with grease. It was not that way this time. And it
I like
seemed-
a little grease to the bun, just a little grease. You
yeah,
know,
but
you
like
know,
this was like the bottom of the bun.
Yeah, no, like
the bottom
spot-
bun
like
was
used
like
as a-
fall,
it's like
was
as
like
a
falling
sponge.
apart.
Crystals.
as I was
Like
Yeah,
a
'cause you-
crystal
yeah,
burger.
you-
like I had to stop and then just eat the burger
Sometime-
with a fork.
Yeah, knife and a fork should only be when the burger is like too stacked or too big, and
Right.
you need to like be able to.
yeah,
manage
I
it
would
that way.
argue if your burger is like that, you don't need to make your burger. I should be able to eat my burger with two hands.
There you
but
go. Fair enough.
That's my opinion on that.
So I guess overall, thumbs up, Cocaine Bear and Buffalo Wild Wings D'Iberville. Thumbs down, IHOP D'Iberville.
Yeah,
Yeah.
don't go to the IHOP in D'Iberville. I haven't checked out the other two IHOPs in this area in a while, but that one's definitely not good.
Well, we had one in Pascagoula for about 2 years, and then that went to not existing
The
anymore.
one in Biloxi, I don't know.
The one
that
in
one's
Biloxi-
usually better.
That's
but-
the one west of Edgewater.
Yeah,
Right?
that's the one that's right on 90.
I have never had a bad. Here's what was weird about this. Even with this thing, I cannot say I've never had bad food at either of those IHOPs. I didn't get any food at
Yeah.
this one this
Right.
time, but that was a whole other
And-
issue.
On another note, the Denny's in Ocean Springs is fucking phenomenal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah. The one. Yeah. The one just north of the city.
613 or whatever.
Yeah, that one's
Yeah.
that one's a lot better than the one that's in Gulfport.
Yeah. No, like
But I can't go to the one in Ocean Springs anymore because I walked in there and there was somebody I went to high school with who was a waitress, and I was like, "This is awkward. I can't do this."
Oh
again.
no.
You should have tipped her and just didn't get any food and just left. That's the true power move there.
Yeah, it was too late by then.
There you go. All righty. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for riding with us as long as you have so far on this podcast. And if you would like to leave feedback for us, as we love to hear from you lovely passengers, you can catch it on Travelers on the Omnibus at gmail.com. Again, that is Travelers, 1L on the Omnibus at gmail.com. Jody, where else can they get in touch with us?
We're on Spotify, Anchor, Google Play, and Apple. So,
Yes.
Saga.
Saga. There you go. Absolutely. And also, if you are on Spotify, they actually brought back the questions this week. So I think that might have been just a glitch for 1 week. But questions and polls, we put them every time on Spotify. Interact with us. Let us know what's going on.
You can message us directly on Spotify as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have an email, gentlemen.
Oh.
It's from IHOP International. Dear fuckers, we're coming for you. Oh, God.
shit.
Oh, no.
They sent the Cocaine Bear after us.
Oh,
It's called International because it's a
we'd
syndicate.
already be dead.
Yeah, it's true.
That Cocaine Bear works fast, and you can't stop it because momentum is a terrible thing to fucking stop. Now, we do legitimately have some wonderful feedback from Lionel Clark, the department head, Performing Arts, Gaucher High School, and my cousin, Nepotism, titled Battle Damaged Jar Jar. Greetings, fellas. I've been listening to a few of your recent episodes, and here are my comments. Barbarians, I began the episode and immediately stopped. so I could watch this masterpiece without spoilers. Thank God it was on Amazon Prime for free. I laughed my ass off throughout the movie while I relived the greatest that was 80s crap movies. I thought the dragon looked like a battle-damaged Jar Jar. Discuss this
Fair
amongst
enough.
yourselves.
Fair
I
enough.
also wasn't paying attention at the end and missed the whole no fingers crossbow thing. Awesomeness. Mixtape, another great episode that gave me some new tunes to check out. Thank you very much. We always love giving everybody ideas for music. I hope he listens to Mr. Bungle twice. I love you, Lionel. I love you, Lionel. But listen to it. Here's my.
If his next email is a rambling descent into madness, then yes, he listened to it twice.
Yes, absolutely. There you go. Here's my idea for an upcoming episode.
Oh.
Review the movie Judgment Night and then the soundtrack from the movie. They are both awesome. Judgment Night is, I believe, the first time that Biohazard and Onyx work together, and they have like one of my favorite rock, metal, hip hop combinations with Slam. Da, da, da,
Let
da,
the boys
da,
be
let the
boys.
boys be boys.
Yeah.
So that's an Emilio Estevez movie where
okay.
they're getting together. I think it's for a bachelor party, but they take the wrong trip
get
down
stuck
in
yeah.
Chicago
Yeah.
on a back alley where Dennis Leary murders someone.
Yeah.
And then they have to get back home.
This came
Jesus
out. That
Christ.
came out in like what 2000 or
1990X.
1990X.
Whenever Mega Man happens, that's
I know.
when it happened.
I know that on the soundtrack there's a song by Faith No More.
Oh, okay.
So
Of course
Okay.
you knew that. There we go.
yeah, I've seen
Yeah.
the movie once. It's not good.
Mike Patton for the win. There we go. Final thought. Please, please, please create a new podcast of just Ethan's jerky exploits called Public Jerking with Ethan. He could have guests, and the segments could be called Jerking with
Ethan,
Friends.
that's a
This
free
is
idea. That didn't cost you a damn thing.
This is $1 million idea. Don't pass it up. It's in there in writing.
He's giving you this for free, man. He's not even asking for royalties.
Keep up the good work, fellas. Cousin Lionel, thank you very much for all
Thank
that.
you for the feedback.
Anything we want to just pull just directly out of there?
I just want to say that, like, mentioning Faith No More, I have to mention the fact that in the second Bill and Ted movie, they have a Church of Faith No More with Jim Martin, the guitarist from
Jesus
Faith No More in
fucking
it.
Christ.
Judgment Night came out in 1993.
That
okay.
seems about right.
Okay.
What is it? Okay, there
I
we
think
go.
that's when Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey came out in '93 as
Jesus.
well.
Everything. So what you're saying is, at least in your universe, Jody, everything comes back to Faith No
Yeah,
More.
yeah.
Yeah,
pretty-
it's
pretty
like
much.
6 degrees of faith no more
Yeah,
with him.
yeah.
Oh
Like,
God, we're gonna have to do that one time on a podcast. Like have a
He could
segment
probably
called,
fucking do it.
6 Degrees of Faith No More.
It's probably really easy. He did a compilation with Bjork. I mean, that's like
Jesus
that
Christ.
takes care of 3 degrees right there.
Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey came
Was
out
he-
in 91.
Was he also in The Northman?
No, but he was the voice of the demon in the Darkness video game on the 360.
Oh, okay. Okay. I liked The Darkness, that first video game. That was a pretty good one. It wasn't perfect. It had some problems, but
It did.
I
It was
liked it a
all right.
lot.
It was all right.
interesting.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, a moment from our sponsors. And once again, we would like to thank our sponsors. You are the financial lifeblood of this show. Without it, we would not be in our $10 billion palace that we are in right now.
I use those products every day.
I use none of them, but I take their money.
Yes, yes, yes.
very good.
I love those products.
Yes.
I'm very average
Products.
when it comes to those products.
You have to be
And the
one way or the
services.
other, or they're gonna take their.
I love these products.
They might even strip the sponsorship right from this episode.
I love these products. These products are fantastic.
Okay, good. We've saved it. It's not like that. The products will not be mentioned now.
Yes.
Yes.
Do you like shitting?
Do you like pissing? Do you like coming?
Act now and we'll throw farting for free.
If you know what that reference is, you are awesome. If you don't know what that reference is, you are safe. Sponsorship aside, me being the talker good guy, I would like to bring up the Great Book of Amber, the second book in the 10 books in the Chronicles of Amber, the Guns of Avalon. Our second episode ever was the first book in the series, Nine Princes of Amber, one of my favorite fantasy novels of all time. This is the follow-up to it, the continuation of the story of Corwin of Amber and his travails to hopefully one day take the crown and get revenge on those who wronged him. Spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. You have been warned one last time. Spoilers, spoilers, spoilers.
Yes. Spoilers on a 30, 40-year-old book.
Sir, 1974,
4.
closing in on 50.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And also,
72 maybe. I could have swore I
I
looked
thought
at the
72. I thought 72 was.
I
Nine
looked
Princes.
at the copyright in the beginning for a very specific reason.
Okay, let's find out. Let's find out how old
Yeah,
this is.
72.
Yeah, 72.
Okay.
So 51.
Nine Princes was in 70.
There you go.
Yeah, in between those books, he wrote 14 other books. I'm exaggerating, but he did write other books all the time.
In fact, he was more prolific in the science fiction field.
Okay.
It's kind of stark that Roger Zelazny, like his most famous work was in. I won't say that he dabbled in, because 10 books is more than a dabbling.
Yeah.
But he was a more prolific science fiction writer.
He's also got a series of short stories that are in compilations as well.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he was a classic, like, in my opinion, a classic American author. He did a little bit of everything. So, just where do we want to start, gentlemen? Do we want to start briefly? So, 9 Princes of Amber. Corwin of Amber has woken up from amnesia. He's trying to figure out everything. He's just a regular dude in a regular world. Nope. He's not a regular dude. He's a Prince of Amber, one of a line of a royal family that can control all of reality from the one true world, Amber. Yes, regular Earth, no. It's just a shadow of actual reality. And there's infighting amongst the family. He gets his eyes burned out, and then 4 years later, they finally grown back. He's escaped a prison. There's a sweet lighthouse, and he's just now landed from the shores of that lighthouse to just some place in particular, and that's where we take up the Guns of Avalon. Gentlemen, what are some of the stuff that struck out for you in this, as opposed to one, maybe just 9 Princes in specific, but just in general fantasy fiction and fantasy novels in general?
One thing that I kept thinking of, because recently I've read a few novellas, and that's basically what this is. Putting them all together, like, you get basically a really long novel. Is that in a short amount of pages, like, he fits a lot in there, which is really, really interesting, because sometimes you will get, I have read novellas that are about the same amount as this, and it's much less information given. There's much, it's a very short amount of time that they do, or, they just don't get as much detail. And I realized part of the way through that, one of the ways that he does that is sometimes he just kind of yada yadas over things. He's just like, oh, and I did as such and so and such and such, and this happened. I'm not. I don't feel like telling you all of this. Like Corwin, who is like internally narrating everything, is basically like, oh. I'm not going to go into any more detail than this. And you're like, oh, okay, we're just going to the next thing. All right. Yeah. So that's one of the things that really struck me reading this book.
Yeah.
He's very playful with it. Like, there are times that you will forget that the main character is narrating to you, and then you are specifically being spoken to directly. I think one time when he met Lorraine, when the fact's like, I'm not going to go on about Lorraine and how about all these other things, and then this thing about Lorraine, damn it. And like, so yeah, it's just like he is not in control of like going off on tangents sometimes.
I like the fact that Corwin as a character, Corey, if I should call him that for a minute, if you're friends at the beginning of the conversation, you're going to be enemies afterwards, and if you're enemies at the beginning of the conversation, you're going to be friends,
probably, and
then enemies, and then friends again. That happens a couple of times in the story as well.
It's. I don't even know how to put it, to be quite honest. There's things that I really like about this series, and there's things that are frustrating to me. For some reason, this one was a little bit harder to really get into. I think one of the things that really drove the first book was there was that mystery of what the hell is going on.
Yeah.
And you don't have that in this one. It's just, okay, now Corwin has this mission, and he is pretty damn, one track mind about it. Like he basically jerks off thinking about Amber. Like that's all he wants.
Yeah.
Well, no, not Amber. Getting revenge on the person who took Amber from him.
I would say it's Amber, because it's just always he's talking about Amber. Like, he mentions every once in a while, he mentions Amber way more than he mentions getting fucking up Eric. Yeah. Like he really wants to fuck up Eric, but he definitely wants to get the crown in Amber.
At the end, I think it's less about having the crown, and it's, I think he finally comes to his senses about that, and that's something that I'd like to talk about.
Right.
Corwin is a good man, but he is complicated. This is not just simply a white knight in shining armor who is like, that has this paladin kind of like, I'm virtuous, and a lot of what he is concerned with, a lot of what concerns him, it's like, I do believe the revenge for Eric is actually more of the driving thing, and the point of beating him is then the crown of amber. But that being said, like the fact that he has to take it through revenge, like the fact that guns have to ring out in Avalon. I have to get my revenge on this person that took from me 4 years of my life, who like, yet all of these things that just like, he very just with a few seldom times, I think maybe even towards the very end of Guns, is the fact that he mentions that he was actually there to help Blaze win. And it's actually, no, you stole it from me. And Blaze is almost an afterthought of it. He's very personally, selfishly motivated in a lot of this. But then you see him interact with people, and there's a good man there. It's just that he has a lot of demons that to me tend to claw him down, literally and figuratively.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that he's a good man, because there were a couple of times in this book where I was like, is he the bad guy? Is this going to end up to where he's the bad guy?
He definitely had a lot of
like. Are we just like? Am I just following this guy and liking this guy because he's the point of view that he's the point of view that I'm seeing?
He would definitely take part in impulsive compulsion kind of things where he has a lot of impatience at the beginning. Still at the beginning of this book, he has a lot of impatience, especially when it comes to Lorraine and dealing with that character and
he has a history, or a shadow of him has a history that is far from loved. It is reviled.
They kept going like everywhere that he keeps going. In the distant past, he's basically the boogeyman. Like he's a monster to everyone, and I'm like, is he? Or like, I think he might not be a great guy.
They definitely they go into stories where they're talking about like what he did here, and he's like, but I haven't been here, but that's the shadow that I cast from somewhere else. So all that metaphysical, esoteric conversations about the shadows in this story are a lot more. There's a lot more.
Not only are there shadow worlds, there are shadow me's in these shadow worlds. It is
and things that stretch out.
It's really like
time and space.
The magic system in this can really it's so esoteric that it can almost break your brain if you try to think too hard about it.
And one of my favorite sections of the book is his travel to get diamonds. And how just like kaleidoscopic that whole
that
thing
part
is.
I was like, what the fuck is this?
What's happening?
Poetry section. This I can't remember what the kind of poetry it felt like, but this like this loose. I was like, what the fuck is this for like 2 pages?
Well, there was like that soliloquy that he finds on the wood plaque later on, like the wood framed picture.
That bugged me because it was inconsistent with other times that he has traveled through shadows. It's been very then this, then this, then this, then this, and this time it was like, oh, now we're gonna be all flowery and weird.
I wonder if that was just the last name. Like, okay, so the first time I've got to establish this world, and I have to establish this is how it happened. Like, you could describe, say, a road trip between Miami and Los Angeles. And you could say we stopped off in Orlando, and then we stopped off in Pensacola, and then Dallas, and like you could do it matter of factly, or you could describe like the swamps of the Everglades, the coast of the Gulf of Mexico.
Well, it's like it's stream of consciousness is what it is. That's I think that's the phrase I was thinking of.
That's right.
In that.
But I think because the world's already established, he can now indulge more in showing you like what is going on instead of that it had gone on.
So the part of the story, at the very beginning that's grounded is that he's walking across this area or whatever, and the area of Lorraine, which is also a person, which is also really weird. He comes across what looks like 7 dead men, but it's actually like 6 dead dudes and one guy that's almost dead, and he decides that he's going to help this guy, which is kind of like outside of his character, especially considering that he's on a fucking hellbound mission to fucking Amber to get his crown back.
And to me, again, that goes more towards I think ultimately when you cast all the chips, he is a good man. It's just he has things that have very, very heavily weighed on his soul. One of those things being the fact that he is coming to the realization that he is ultimately responsible for what might end up being the destruction of everything he knows.
Right.
It's these shadow creatures, and what eventually will be known as the Courts of Chaos, and which will play which will go on further and play a way bigger part in the story
later
itself.
on.
But now it's basically manifested as like evil things that are just taking over different ones, and then eventually manifests as the Black Road.
I like he's talking to the guy that's almost dead. He's like, let me help you out, and it's like, how far is it to wherever you're staying at? It's like 5 leagues this way or whatever, which is like 15 miles. He's like, all right, well, I'll just figure out, like, let me just put this thing together. I'll put this harness together and I'll carry you that way. He's like, no, there's no way you're going to be able to carry me like 15 miles. It's like, yeah, no problem. Just fucking picks him up and fucking starts walking.
Yeah, I love how like it's very obvious that all of these fuckers from Amber are like superhuman, and everybody's just like, "Oh, that's weird." Like they're just like, "Oh, you're really strong, and your stamina is very great." Huh? Funny that, and then they just kind of go on about their thing, and it's like he's able
because they're totally blind to the idea of what Amber. Even the
fair
people
enough.
who have a shard of that knowledge. If you're not a part of it, you cannot understand the metaphysics of it.
I like how when he takes the guy into their encampment or whatever, the main guy that Corwin hangs out during the rest of this Ganelin. He's like, so thanks for helping out with this soldier guy. Why did you do that? It's like, at first he's like has this offhanded comment of like, humanity and the help of mankind.
Well, even then, like he's not 100% sure why he did. Like, why
he's
did I
not
do
sure
this?
why he did it. Yeah.
Why did I bring a wounded man to someone that is possibly wanting to kill me?
Yes, because
the whole time he's like, can't be that Ganelin,
right?
The Ganelin that I.
The Ganelin
that I exiled, the Ganelin who hates me, the Ganelin who thinks that I'm a demon.
The Ganelin, well, no, and it's not just that he exiled it. It's not like they took Napoleon and put him on an island. He took the man out of his own reality
and
moved him into a different reality.
Violently, they refer to it several times as a hell ride.
Yes,
that he took him on.
Yeah, he looks at Corwin for a second too, and he's like, "Do you look very familiar?"
I'm like, "Nope."
He's like,
"Nope, I've got a beard. I look way older."
I'm Corey.
My name's Corey. My name's Corey.
Corey.
No correlation.
Yeah.
No correlation.
Corey. Oh, where am I from? Someplace very far away.
I'm from Boy Meets World.
Yeah.
I'm Corey from Boy Meets World.
Someplace very far away that you've never heard of.
Have you heard of my girlfriend Topanga?
Yeah. Yeah, at one point, like some mercenaries or whatever, like, hold on, let's look at this currency. Like, I think maybe his face is still on some of these coins.
Like his face is on the fucking coin.
And they're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Wait, huh?
Yeah. Well, no, wait. He's got a beard. This guy doesn't. Well, we're cool. We're cool.
That's like, I think that's later when they actually get back to a version of Avalon.
Oh yeah.
If I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm. That's probably probably correct. Yeah.
But yeah, I will say like it started to get me a little bit better towards the end of the book when things like really start picking up. And in fact, you liked the traveling sequence where it got like esoteric and weird and shit. I actually liked the traveling sequence where they're getting away from Avalon.
I would also say again,
when they go to Antwerp,
where it's like super.
No, they don't go to Antwerp. It's where they're going through. Like now they're on a Russian river.
He's like been up for like 5 days straight, and he's like. Just like because you have to concentrate to move through shadow, and he's like, it's the hardest fucking thing.
And
he's just like, I just want to get rid of this goddamn yellow dirt that we're riding on. Can I just do that?
When
please?
And
then they start getting chased and everything. And then
his brother's chasing him,
and they have to go across it to hopefully get away from it. And even then, they can't.
Right?
Yeah, and that's some. I imagine later on this will get better defined, but everything that happens with like these dark enemies is just weird shit, and you're like, what the fuck is that? And they don't really explain anything. And
I think
it's a little frustrating.
The one thing that attacked him and the girl in the bedroom, it sort of like sounded like a harpy almost, kind of.
It was One of the shadow things from the Circle of the Warden.
I thought of the Lord of Change from Warhammer. Just it's like
I can see that.
weirdo bird creature that is mystical and all kind of weird.
I like he pulls out what's the name of his sword again?
Gwynhander.
Gwynhander,
He pulls out his silver sword and like stabs the fucking beast in the chest or whatever, and he's like, "Foul creature, my heart isn't where normal people's hearts are," or some shit or whatever.
Yeah, and then
can't
just,
remember.
And like,
I do like the first weird thing that he sees is the two cat things.
the Siamese tigers.
Yeah, and they go and they say like it is a man most mortal, and I like the way that they talk.
Yeah.
That's funny, but you don't really see that much.
There isn't much of that.
But it's all like weird. Like somebody says weird shit and then they disappear. Like that's mostly what happens when he.
The more you'd understand these things, the less they would be frightening and for Corwin an adversary. In my opinion.
I can see that, but I just want like it's hard in general for me, and I think kind of in general for a lot of people, it's hard to really get behind a threat. You want to know some kind of motivation, like something needs to start making sense. Is all I'm saying, you know. Towards the end when that final reveal at the end was a little frustrating because I was like, what the fuck? This is the last page,
right?
And now I have to read this other goddamn book to find out. I hate that. I want some kind of like answers now.
So this was the second book. Sign of the Unicorn is going to be the third book, and we will either do that next year or maybe later this year, if however the winds blow for us. I think that was primarily done because he knew he was going to turn this into multiple books. I don't know if he had settled on the 5 that it ended up being, which is the Corwin cycle. Merlin's cycle comes after that. That's Corwin's son.
Yeah.
I think he had resolved that this was going to happen. So this is a good cutoff point because that turn is shocking because it's not well set up, but it is set up. Like there is some setup.
Looking back, you can see some things as to how, and I get that, but like that
it gives different.
Not giving me anything. Like I'm not saying that she should have done like a fucking monologue or something like that.
Right.
But I would have liked a little bit more information.
I didn't trust
about that.
Yeah.
I am glad that he didn't fuck his great grandniece.
Yeah, that was really that interaction was a little.
When I read that, I was like, no, oh man.
So the first time I read this book, I was 15. It's like, ooh, an older woman.
Yeah.
Anyway, for me, that
right.
And then later on, it's like, oh. And then, like now, it's like, oh.
I like the point. I like the point when Benedict, right? That's his. Benedict's like, why do you keep mentioning this girl? I don't know who the fuck you're talking about.
I loved it, like when he finally had to confront Benedict when he was chasing them. He was like, now she's a woman. She can make her own decisions. He was like, what? That's not what I'm mad at you about. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Murderer.
Yeah, you killed everybody.
No. He doesn't even say it like that.
Yeah.
He just keeps screaming, murderer.
He's like, can we talk about it? It's like, no.
Murderer.
And when you find out like who actually was murdered, who the murdering was and everything like that, you're like, man, he seemed to be a little bit too upset that it was just some servants who died. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Well, I wonder.
He literally chased them through reality
and again, like Corwin. First of all, I love the character of Benedict. I like
Benedict.
Yeah, Benedict was cool.
I love the threat that Benedict represents to Corwin.
Oh, when he finally explained like what Benedict's abilities, I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the ultimate warrior. And not the load the spaceship with the rocket fuel. Load it with the warriors. That's not Benedict. Benedict is like Gilgamesh on steroids.
There's
even with one arm. Spoilers, when you meet him, he is sans one arm.
There's there's a fight that happens at one point, and not going to talk about the conclusion, but there's a fight that happens in like fucking Corwin's little buddy fucking Ganlon. Ganlon's like I'll help. He's like, no, don't fucking do anything.
You don't want to be a part of this.
Stay the fuck away.
Yeah,
You cannot do anything.
And he tries to bomb rush Benedict, and Benedict goes, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
And he one arm tosses him like just straight off. Like, what the hell?
He threw me like a second.
I love how Ganla was like, look. So I really like this place. This is kind of like my Avalon that I knew.
Yeah.
Maybe after we take back Amber, I can come back here. And Benedict, he's minus an arm.
Right.
He's gonna need a right hand man, literally.
Yeah, and Corwin's laughing it off.
And Corwin's like, no,
Yeah.
this man for millennia has done nothing but study battle.
Yeah.
He fights
Yeah.
every day. He goes through Shadow and just goes through different battles with minor differences to see if his theories work.
He watches the same battle played out over multiple realities to see how it would be different. Like, this one blade of grass isn't on the field.
Oh, yeah.
How does that affect the fight?
The grass.
Do you know what a millennia is? He's done this for multiple of those.
And also, by the way, he's going to grow that arm back. Just don't worry about it.
And then Ganlon was like,
Oh, well, maybe I just like to live here.
Well, maybe he'll just let me live here. I kind of like this place.
The only actual issue I have is the title of the fucking story, because guns happen and then 5 pages later the story's over.
Yeah. Well, when you get guns against
that's
swords
true.
and
That's
bows and
true.
arrows.
I was like, that was kind of anticlimactic but understandable.
Yeah. No, because again, another piece of media that we've watched recently called Heavy Metal showed you if you have an automatic weapon and they have spears, you win.
Yeah. Or automatic weapons versus magic and wizards. For example.
Yeah.
I will take
fuck a dragon up with an AK-47.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, a wyvern's done.
Yeah,
just
for
fucking
real.
done.
Fuck you, shadow creature.
They just burst into flames and land on the ground.
Go back to the fucking road where you came from.
Ethan, the old men have been talking a lot. What about you as a young man? What stood out for you in Guns of Avalon?
The thing that stood out to me a lot is like the internal monologues that happen with
Corwin.
Yeah. I know there's one section where Ganelon is talking. It takes up like 2 pages of the journey of his exile, not self-exile. And that was one of the things that kind of made it a little difficult for me to read.
Okay.
I like stories that have progression. They progress gradually. Whenever they go into like these like long and deep monologues, it kind of like clunks it up for me.
Kind of a minutia of
minutia of details.
Yeah. It's like it goes,
exposition. That's what I was trying to say.
It goes too far into things that don't really need all that much explanation. Like Ganelon's exile, that is interesting to see, like the turn of events of how he got to where he is now. But
I like that happened. That wasn't just a monologue. That was a discussion between the two, with one of them not realizing that he's talking to the person that did this to him. There's a lot of interplay in there that I think you don't get out of the words so much as you get out of the scene setting. And also it explains in a lot of ways, at least for me, why this person who had this done to him would go back to the person that did that to him.
I get what you're saying, because now that I do think about it, I didn't notice it at the time, but there is a lot of Corwin goes to some place. Some person tells them, this is what is happening here.
Yeah.
And then he goes to another place, and then somebody says, well, this is what is happening here. So I do get that, Ethan. But I do like one of the things I haven't loved, like, and I'm not necessarily a big prose person. Like I don't pay that much attention to it. I mean, for God's sakes, one of my favorite authors is Brandon Sanderson, and that's something that he often gets criticized for is his prose. But I feel like at least in parts of this, like the prose was a lot better. There are a lot of like internal things that Corwin talks about, that says to himself these little inner monologues that I think are really good lines. Like I just happened to find one where he was it's after I'm gonna stop saying spoilers because we've already told people like spoilers.
Yeah, spoilers 5 million times.
But it's after Lorraine dies and he avenges her, and then he buries her stuff, and he talks about how I'm not going to read out the whole passage, but he talks about how he always saw himself as an evil to oppose evil, and he starts kind of thinking about what's going to happen if I destroy all the evil. Like, am I just going to go away? And I thought that was very well said in that. And there's a couple of other things where I was like, I really should have been like sitting with like a little highlighter so I could have really done my due diligence, but I didn't. But there was a couple of times where I was like, oh, that's a really good line. And I didn't get that quite as often in the first book.
I really love the setup for that. So like Lorraine is under the impression before Corwin leaves for Avalon that he did some sort of like murdered her family or some shit or whatever. There's a shadow of him that did something. She has like some sort of gift of sight and everything. Right.
She says like,
I'm
gonna die. This is before like there's like this little final battle with the circle, which is in Lorraine. This is what is the darkness that is taking over there. And she says, I'm gonna die pretty soon. And he's like, well, no, just stay back. Don't come here, and I'll keep you safe. Because he's like, I don't love her, but I'm fond of her.
Yeah.
And then towards the end of that battle, like it's revealed pretty much that he is Corwin, because he tells Ganelon like before the battle, which I thought was a really cool thing where Ganelon was like, well,
and it's also, this is now his return,
right?
Like, this is his proper return to being him, because he's shaved his beard, he's like put on, and he's put on his like straight from the Trump, straight from his card, how he looks, and it's like, okay, Corwin of Amber has returned,
I really like that where he was like, because they kept talking about like, oh, Corwin's coming, and he was like, oh, he's here, and then he just kind of looks at
Corwin is with us.
He looks at us and it looks at him, and then like looks down at the little pin that he's got on. He's like, oh, okay, sure.
That was one line I did like.
Yeah,
Corwin is with us, and then he looks at the rose pin.
Like he goes after her to try and convince her, like, before I leave, I need to talk to her.
Yeah,
and then comes across.
Yeah, she runs off because when she finds out she's Corwin, like he killed some
family or
somebody back in the day.
He's got a bad history in Lorraine, just period.
Right.
Yeah.
And the baby that was sacrificed to create the circle was her child.
Oh, in the mushroom fairy circle.
In the mushroom fairy circle.
Yeah.
And
right.
So there's again, it's one of the things that instead of Corwin just being able to solve everything, the weight of his own history weighs him down. It's like the history with his family, with the shadow worlds that he's been to, the shadows of those worlds and how it's interpreted.
Yeah.
For me, and I will link this back to my favorite novel of all time, and that I love this and I love Dune in the same way, in that you have these very powerful, in some cases omniscient, if we're talking about Paul Atreides from Dune, you have these very extremely powerful protagonists whose weakness is the fact that even as powerful as they are, they cannot get away from history that has nothing to do with them and their own personal histories. There's something about that is very resonant with just regular people. There's stuff in our lives that weigh us down, whether we want to have them weigh us down or not. They're parts of us, and it's things that the repercussions of that we deal with, that if we overcome those, that we end up being better people.
Which is the part of the character that makes him more relatable.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to talk about my favorite line. In fact, I would like everybody to, if you've got your favorite line ready, my favorite line. From if you're reading this from the Chronicles of Amber 10 book omnibus, this is pages 200 and 201. I needed some rest. A few hours' worth would hold me for a time, but I refused to take them beneath Benedict's roof. I would not be taken that easily. And while I had often said that I wanted to die in bed, what I really meant was that in my old age, I wanted to be stepped on by an elephant while making love.
Okay, it's really funny that you mentioned this. So, you know absolutely that that Neil Gaiman is a fan of Zelazny.
Oh yeah.
Because after the original run of Sandman, he did there's a collection called Endless Nights where it's seven stories, each one of the not starring but at least taking part of the Endless, one of the Endless. And Death's story is about this island that is removed from time and removed from death, and she is trying to get to it. And it's an island where the same day just keeps happening, the same night. where they're coming to get this like count guy who like did experiments and shit. But what ends up happening is there's just this time loop of them having this really extravagant party, and because they're all immortal and they know that things are going to get reset every day, they just getting more and more extravagant and more indulgent. And literally one of the things that happens is the count guy is dies while making love and being trampled by an elephant.
There you go.
And I was like, holy shit. And I know this for a fact because that he has read that Nick Gaiman has read Zelazny, because American Gods is dedicated to one of the people that it's dedicated to is Zelazny. Okay. So it's funny that you mentioned that, because I immediately like, oh shit, okay, that's where he got that idea. That's where he got that idea from, and he put it in a comic.
That is cool. I like that. So why I said that was a Tyrion line. From the original Game of Thrones book, and it's one of my favorite parts of the episode where they're going to the House Aaron's, not the Reach, what the big castle with the moon door, the Eyrie. Jesus Christ, home of House Aaron. Now, where when they're going to the Eyrie first, and they get waylaid by the hill tribes, and it's like, how do you want to die, little man? It's like the age of 80. With a belly full of wine, my cock in someone's mouth, like it's like oh, okay, like that kind of like ribaldry right there. It just kind of reminded me about that.
Yeah, that was I think probably one of my. There was a couple of different ones, but I can't remember off the top of my head what the other one was. But the one where he's talking about, when I killed all the evils, I'll go down into the depths of hell, basically, myself. That was really good. But if I find that other thing that I remembered,
I think one of mine, it would have to be when Corrin is initially fighting the shadow monster that like flies into his room, and during the entire interaction, he's trying to like keep his gaze away from the red eyes. And as he has him in like the chokehold, almost, he finally like locks eyes. The monster yells "you," and it said that Corrin did not turn his gaze away from him and snapped the neck. So to me, it kind of felt like he knew exactly what he was going into with all this going on.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead. Sorry.
And it's like that one scene kind of like planned out exactly how he was going to go about the entire situation. There you go.
Yeah,
so I very much like that.
I like in that scene how it tells you that all of this shit, there's some kind of rules to it. It's hard to tell. It might be hard to tell what the rules are, and the rules might not necessarily make sense to you, but there are rules to this, because the thing sits on his windowsill and like keeps asking to come in, and he keeps denying him, and after the third time he's like, do you deny me again? I was told that I cannot enter to kill you unless you deny me 4 times.
That was a really good line.
I deny you, now come here.
Telling him he kept asking his name is what it was, and he's like,
I'm not telling you.
I'm not telling you. Because like in most magic systems, like knowing something's name is power. But yeah, I really thought that was very interesting with that. There's a lot of really, really interesting things in this, but there was for some reason, like there were parts of this that were a little bit harder for me to get through than the other one.
Go for it, Ethan.
No, it's a little off topic. Whenever we were watching Cocaine Bear, they like going through all the trailers. There was the trailer for the new Nicolas Cage as Dracula movie.
Renfield,
yeah. And it's like Renfield's in this like AA sort of like meeting, and Dracula comes up to the door. He knocks, and the spokesperson says, "Come in," and Renfield turns around like, "No."
So that was that. Yeah.
Sorry, that just reminded me of that.
That's a wonderful point to bring up there.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
There are. I will say there are siblings of his that I actually like in this one.
Speaking of siblings, there's also there's a lot of siblings that are not real. They're mentioned briefly, but not really.
Well, the fact that like Julian's there, it's just he never even has like a line or anything, and
he's always established as a fucking asshole, like to the point where it's like compared to Eric, he's like the only other brother that he was like, fuck him, like
Yeah.
just straight up.
Random's mentioned, but I don't think Random
at the very end,
at the very
because
Three pages to the end.
Yeah.
because Random using his trump is how he gets into actually into Amber proper. Because when the battle is taking out like just outside of Amber. Yeah, but I really I like Benedict. Just the little bit that you see Gerard, I like him.
Yeah.
Real quick, for me, it's Gerard.
Yeah.
It might be Gerard.
No. Like, I language fascinates me. So, because when I see that hyphen over the E, I'm like, we're putting the stress on that. So,
Gotcha.
Gerard. But you had Gerard. You also had Gerard.
I said
I've
Gerard.
been speaking Gerard.
Gerard. Okay, no.
Gerard
I'm
is
not
fine.
doing that to be
Yeah.
pedantic
No.
Well, like I said, Ganelon. So
Right.
y'all said it a little bit differently.
I say Ganelon. Yeah.
Ganelon, yeah.
Now,
Ganelon.
for me, in my brain, when I see that word, take out that L and E, I'm thinking of Ganon from
Right.
Legend of Zelda. And that's where I'm kind of
What's
afflicting on
the
that
name
one.
of the chick that's his relation that
Dara, which is
Dara.
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 I think-
Dara or Dara.
I think I
Dara.
said Dara,
Dara.
in my head.
Dara.
Yeah.
If for
Or
the,
Dor.
for those two gentlemen there, because of the existence of Daria, I can get it. I can 100% get it. For me, Dara, because to me it sounds more Irish, and that's
Right.
how I kind of in my brain have her described in my brain.
She's like, hey, Benedict doesn't tell me about these things. What do you know? But what do you know about these things, huh? Tell me about this walking the patterns and the shadows and all that.
Yeah, looking back at that,
Yeah.
it things do fit together. I
Right.
do like that because you're like, well, of course, like she didn't have to come from anywhere. She lied about that, like because she's never around. And then when it's like, oh, she's the one who killed the servants. Oh, that's
He's
cool.
like, where were you the other day? She's like, oh, I wrote off for the day. I had to clear my mind.
And he's so focused on what he needs to do that he doesn't notice
not
it.
even
He
thinking
doesn't
about
notice
it.
the plot
because
holes.
he doesn't notice it. You don't necessarily notice it as
No,
a
I
reader.
totally didn't
Yeah.
get it until when the murders happened. I'm like, oh, okay,
And even then, Ganelon's around.
right.
Oh, I found these bodies. Did Ganelon find the bodies, or is he the reason for the bodies? There's
right.
just enough
There's a little doubt
off
there.
to the sides that, and you never get the chance to focus on it because I have to get guns. I have
Right.
to get to Amber.
Yeah.
I need to get this stuff that polishes jewelry
I have
that'll
to
blow up so I
have
can
to
use guns.
I have to
my
teach.
guns.
I have to teach Ganelon German because we have to go to
That was-
Antwerp to Switzerland and get guns.
That's
in
the
Germany.
one part. That's the one part that I'm like, this is an indulgence. This is we don't need to know that Ganelon can't speak anything,
German?
but
Yeah.
he learns German.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, it is interesting
And
when
then,
they.
and then it's like, go to Italy. Here's my camera.
Right.
He looks like a tourist. Unnecessary.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go fuck around in the United States for a little while.
I have to. If that was a conscious, if that was just something that he wrote down, it's like, oh, I'm keeping it in. I could see that. If there was a conscious effort to put that in the book and keep it in the book, even after editors had looked at it, I have to imagine it anchors this story back again in the real.
Right.
Like there really is an Italy and Antwerp, Switzerland.
That's the only
there's things
time
like that.
the real world is mentioned, right, in the story
this book.
in this book.
when Earth is mentioned.
Yeah.
It's the only like this whole thing starts on, and here's something just to consider. Does it start on our Earth or a shadow of our Earth? Is it the exact, is it our exact
Yeah,
world?
because he talk it really it breaks, like I said, it breaks your brain because he talks about like, oh, I had an Avalon, but now I'm trying to find a shadow because that Avalon
Doesn't exist
anymore, and time works differently, but then time is the same sometimes for us because we're traveling through shadow.
And then they're
It
mirror
is like-
worlds, and then he takes
And then there are shadows of shadows.
right, and
So-
he takes the G guy,
Ganelon.
Ganelon, and then they get to Avalon, and Ganelon's like, "Oh yeah, this is Avalon."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Corwin's like, "Not really,
Not really, but
Yeah.
but again, he's someone who wouldn't know.
Right,
He would
right.
like an approximation for him could be the real
It's
thing.
close enough for
Yeah.
me."
Yeah.
is
I
what
like
he
that this
said.
is basically multiverse jumping.
multiverse.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But it's just that there are only a few people who can do it.
Right.
Like,
specifically 9.
so yeah, if
or 10.
And now whatever. Well,
Whatever.
there's maybe one more to add to that.
Right.
The women, the sisters can also move through shadow, right?
Right.
Anyone who's walked
That's
the
true.
pattern
There are 15 relatives.
He said there's 15, but there's only like 13. There were
two dead brothers and one dead sister.
Yeah. He specifically mentioned
So
like
if Flora.
Yeah, that was the one that Flora's the one that he originally met that was keeping eyes on him for
in
Eric.
the first
Deidre's the
book.
one that went to him with Rebma, which I looked back at our first podcast on this. None of us mentioned the fact that Rebma is Amber spelled backwards.
Oh
shit! Yeah, that
God
makes
damn
sense.
it. That makes sense.
Because it's the complete opposite. So it has its own pattern.
And he mentions Rebma in a line in the book, but I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, he's
talking about Moira and like
Moira,
right.
Because he catches Benedict up. It's another place where somebody's explaining shit that's happened.
Man, he should just try and not talk to girls of any kind because it
really
him
ends up
or
badly
fucks
every
her
single
up.
time he talks to a woman.
Yeah. To be continued.
Yeah.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
I will say this, that section too, again, I because I like the story, spoilers for my review, I like Guns of Avalon. It's not anywhere near as impactful as Nine Princes was.
Right, of course.
Because one, the story is fresh, but two, also, I think, again, like what Brady went to, like he gets very descriptive in ways that
in
are
his inner monologues
that are almost you can't really follow it. Like
it is a lot.
One of the reasons why I like the section of him going through, there's a number of reasons why. Just for me personally, I like the journey.
Right.
It's very doorways of perception without having to do that. The other reason why I like that is also it sets up the later chase scene.
Yeah.
Which if you went into that chase scene dry without like this
Without
whole like
the setup,
reality flipping
the slow-
in there,
the slow
you would
burn.
be having that problem. You would be having that problem with the chase scene,
Right.
more than you had with that.
I don't know if I would necessarily agree with that because you've been primed pretty sufficiently to understand the way that he speaks when he's walking through shadow.
But it's happening so quickly and so like when you mention stream of consciousness, that is the way I'll call it a fight scene because it ends with them
basically
fighting.
is,
But
yeah.
that whole chase sequence, if you had no route in it switching that fast, because they go from like rushing rivers to caves to magma to all this other shit happening within the span
because
of paragraphs.
they're going through realities basically, right, through the Black Road.
I can't prove a negative.
Well, they're
Not going through the Black Road.
Not through the Black Road, but they're just he's trying
shadow.
to flip through shadows.
Yeah, and the
so
section
quick,
with the
and
Black Road,
because we in this one it gets more clear the way it works where he can add things and take things away as he's going because he's just finding bits and pieces of like because he talks about like I wanted a cloud over me because I felt like shit like. And that's what he's doing when he's running from Benedict is trying to throw things in Benedict's way that he can't fucking get
and
through.
I think it's a little bit easier to wrap your brain around the whole idea of the way the shadow works because you don't have to try and figure that out while also trying to figure out what the fuck pattern is like from the first novel. They kind of focus on patterns like mentioned like a couple of times.
Yeah.
Like when that the new chick, whatever her name is again, I can't remember. Dara. When Dara's asking about pattern, he briefly mentions pattern, and then he talks about pattern again when he's talking to
and capital P pattern is a specific thing,
right?
As opposed to lowercase pattern, which is like the patterns of shadows and how he's drawing them about. Again, I will go back
pattern
because I kind of want to stress this point. I can't prove the negative because in order to if you're following along with the book, in order to get to the chase section, you have to go to the finding the South Africa that was never colonized. Therefore, there's diamonds everywhere,
right?
And without that, I would say as an experiment. If anybody who's listening ever wants to pick up this book and he starts talking about this shadow journey, stop there and pass through it until he's gotten his diamonds, and then go on and try to read the section that has the chase and see if you can keep up with it as accurately as you can and then go back and then read it and see which one did you have. I think having that experience helps relate that chase scene a lot better. That's just my thinking on that.
I don't agree with that, but I can see where you're coming from with it.
I see both sides of that for sure.
because I think that you're sufficiently primed through, because you're not going to read this book without reading the other book, so you're sufficiently primed as to how
that would be
Walking Through
so
Shadows.
weird.
It would be.
Like, especially this series.
Yeah,
Like,
somebody read these backwards and tell us if it fucks you all
no,
up.
start with 2.
Then
read 7.
I've got a funny story to tell you, Jay. This is gonna be.
Let me prop up my feet.
Yeah, prime yourself for this, because like as a teenager, you know, and the internet didn't exist, the World Wide Web didn't exist, and I was 14 and I saw this really awesome fucking book cover in the library. It had like this character was like in a robe, and there was like half of the face was a robot and half of the face was like human looking or whatever. And I picked the book up. I'm like, this looks pretty cool. I'm going to check it out. It was like, you know, when I first started, you know, going into like wanting to read books on my own and not being forced to read books kind of thing or whatever. And I read it, and I had no fucking clue what it was, what I was reading, or what happened afterwards. And thankfully, I don't remember anything of it now, because, you know, going back many years later and starting from the beginning made a lot more sense. I started with Trumps of Doom.
You started with book 6.
Yeah.
You literally started the Merlin cycle first.
yes.
Holy
Jesus Christ.
shit.
Yeah. So I read Trumps of Doom, and then I took forever to get back to actually starting over reading the original.
You were in the shadow world that started with Trumps of Doom. That's how we'll work that one
I
out.
had no fucking clue what was happening,
There
but
you
it was
go.
a good ride.
There you go. Anybody else have any more salient or non-salient or saline points? Do you want to throw some salt on some shit on this book? I'm okay with that.
I mean, like I said, This one was kind of a little bit harder for me to read through. I like this series, but it doesn't grab me like other series or other books have in the past that I really am like, that I will like go through, like almost devour. So I'm okay with like keeping up with this, but I'm not gonna like continue. Like I said with the last one, I'm not gonna continue on with my own. When we decide, hey, we're gonna read the third book, I'll read the third.
Well, we'll
book.
say, like, you know, the thing is, you know, without going into it without reading the first 2 books. And now I've read the first 2 books. When you get to the second book and you get to the end, and it's like, okay, now what?
Yeah, it leaves a
now-
huge cliffhanger, and
Yeah.
to me, it just leaves me frustrated. But not like, oh my God, I have to read the next book now.
Yeah.
I don't know why it does that to me, and I'm not even. I'm not saying, you know, I like these all right. Like this is, I think I after I finished it, I think I gave it like 3 stars on Goodreads. But it doesn't grab me like a lot of other books do.
I think this second one ended with a better cliffhanger than the first one did. Because the first one was just like, hey.
I wouldn't even necessarily call that a cliffhanger.
Yeah, to me, it didn't even feel like a cliffhanger.
I think of it like I think of episode 5. Like, yeah, this is the natural progression of where this is going to go. This one was more like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Like you're going from a declarative statement to a exclamation, like what did that mean?
Right.
Holy, yeah, okay. Sign of the Unicorn.
Yeah.
The 3rd book in the series.
Right.
Coming in the year 2020 something from the review of it from Travelers on the Omnibus. But no, actually, just so Brady, I think we got Brady's solid opinion on that. Ethan, how about you?
I will say this was a lot easier for me to read compared to the first one, because like you said, we've already established the world. We have an idea of the motion of how things go. So it was a little easier for me to understand what was going on, how to connect dots and cross the T's and whatnot. So, however, I will agree with what Brady says. It's not really all that eye catching to me. It's still a good book. I did enjoy reading it, but it's not. I'm not excited. I'm not actively going to like go ahead and read the remaining. Read the next book.
Okay.
So yeah,
Except that we are, because
on my own time.
Yeah, there you go.
On my own time.
Yeah.
There we go.
no, you're gonna you know what? I'm not even reading the next one. Like it's just gonna be the 3 old men.
I'm just gonna skip the episode.
You'll read the Cliff Notes version if Cliff Notes still exists. Yeah.
I'll give the Wikipedia synopsis.
Give the Wikipedia.
You watch
synopsis.
a spoiler version of a review on YouTube or something, right?
Something like that.
Good luck.
Yeah.
I'll figure it
Good
out.
luck. There's like 2 reviews of any of these books,
Yeah, I
and
know.
none of them are going to spoil anything.
Which is crazy. 'cause
It's
if you, like,
fucking nuts.
the early 90s '90s, this was like one of the fantasy series. Still. Like, I'm not going to say it eclipsed Lord of the Rings, but it was in the conversation with Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, that's one thing that if you watch any essays on any of Zelazny's stuff, which is one of his more famous books, is like not even Amber, it's like the Light something.
Lord of Light.
Lord of the Light. That one
literally on the front of this they say author of the Lore of Light.
Right. Apparently that book is like the bee's knees of his shit. I haven't read that, but you know, a lot of people say there's an injustice of not enough people talk about this shit, about Zelazny in general, not just Amber, but Zelazny in general, because he wrote a lot of other things that are not Chronicles of Amber.
I think, again, mentioning earlier, he was a sci-fi author. Like the predominant amount of his work was science fiction, and like now, from what he is remembered of, which painfully is not enough, it's his fantasy work, which to me is, again, Nine Princes is absolutely stellar. It's, if not my favorite fantasy novel of all time, it's one of my favorite fantasy novels of all time.
Like, I'm not going to do the research for it because I am a generally lazy person. But it would be interesting, and it would be way too much fucking work. But I would be interested in finding out like what happened, like watching something or reading something about like what the hell happened as to why this is not like, because again, a lot of like authors like praise, like there's like they care about him, like again, for God's sakes, fucking Neil Gaiman, one of the dedications was for American Gods was to him.
I think sci-fi, especially older sci-fi, gets slept on a lot. I mean, you know, Ray Bradbury's a name, but nowadays, is it? I mean,
in a tangent to this, but
the kids are still having to read Fahrenheit 451 in high school.
But like, The Stars My Destination is one of the best science fiction novellas ever written. It has zero to do with like aliens and wars and pew pew and shooting and laser swords and things like that. For me, and this is just one person looking at the situation. And I don't say this to condemn it. The Lord of the Rings movie series did a lot to damage fantasy, especially in the realm of fantasy novels that never got to a television or a movie presentation. I also, as either a bigger accomplice or as the primary or as an accomplice to it, the Harry Potter series, in the fact that you do not have to go out and read these books. You have, in the case of Lord of the Rings, you have 3 movies. With Harry Potter, you have 8 movies. You can, in a day, get a good survey of first of all, a good and a quality. These were quality movies, with the exception of the 2 Towers, but that's a personal opinion. I think it's boring as fuck. Anyway, but getting back to again. Consensus, personal, and like zeitgeist as a whole, these are very well received, well prepared. And I will, even with 2 Towers, I respect, like much the way Ethan said with that. This is, it wasn't his cup of tea, but he respects the fact that it was a very well put together thing. 2 Towers is a very well put together movie from, in my opinion, behind the camera side. I think just everything else in front of the camera, I don't give a shit about. Though, if you can digest it that way, I think a lot of media that did not get to actual like excuse me, let me start this over again. I apologize to the passengers. Print media that didn't become visual media suffered greatly in the early 2000s, and we have never seen anything of Zelazny's, to my knowledge, that has ever been put to film, to video, to anything like that.
Well, I will mention one thing real quick. I would like to mention about film, specifically in fantasy and movie. One of the reasons why Lord of the Rings was so impactful, besides the fact that it had like the huge budget, the actors, the direction, and the special effects, and all the good stuff that went into making those films. Before that, fantasy movies, there's only like 5 or 6 that people remember.
Conan the Barbarian and Conan the Destroyer, I would say.
You could include a kids movie here and there. Yeah, you could include a kids movie here and there, like Neverending Story or something like that. But there's
Dark Crystal.
Yeah. That Princess Bride, but it's not really like, high fantasy.
Well, no, it's tongue in cheek.
It's tongue in cheek. But
if you don't have the interludes with the boy and his grandfather, I think you can that could be a proper fantasy movie, and it's just very whimsical. But yeah, no, Princess Bride I think falls within that. Yeah,
but there's almost nothing.
If I may, Aragon.
Yeah, because the Aragon movie is shit.
Yeah.
I kind of see where you're going with your theory, Jay, but I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. And if even if what you say is true, I think that's more a symptom of the way media works, and with big corporations and shit like that, than it is anything else. I really don't feel like, because like, especially after like Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter, like they were trying to reach for damn near everything that they could.
They reached for and really didn't succeed, because I think a lot of it was half-hearted efforts to find the next one.
This is true, because after Harry Potter, but like I don't think
I fear a Chronicles of Amber done with that kind of mindset.
Yeah. I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but part of this is like you're saying that like the idea of having these as movies and having these as good movies, although my criticisms would be more towards the Harry Potter movies. I think
that's fair. That's fair.
I think
it's one
most
of the reasons
of those
why
are
I didn't totally backpedal, but I think from a production level, I think Lord of the Rings hits harder for me than Harry Potter does.
Yeah. Are you kind of saying that like because these exist, is that like you feel like people don't go back to read the books or anything, or less likely to read books?
I don't think there is a need to search out fantasy when you have it now even more perniciously, when you can just literally click a button on your television and then just have it. I'm not saying that necessarily even that people are lazy. It's just that you think of fantasy, you have certain stock things in your brain, and if that has already been satisfied with something that has already been presented, I hate to use it this way, but I can't think of it, processed and then presented to you, I think it takes away from the things that, like, for instance, I'm not saying Asimov is forgotten, but you don't hear Isaac Asimov being talked about as far as science fiction goes like you would, say, 20 years ago. And he's one of the bedrocks of American science fiction.
Yeah. Well, I would argue Asimov's, the reason you find that is because Asimov was more of an idea guy than an actual, like, being great at writing guy. Like, he was really good at like coming up with concepts and everything like that.
I would hold the Foundation trilogy to almost any science fiction series in the world. That's and I apologize for being
I'm not saying that like the story but like he wasn't as I'm not saying, because Asimov, I love Asimov as well, but like the ideas to him were more important than actually like what the stories were. Like it was exploring the ideas more than putting down telling a good story with those ideas. That's what I get. That's the what I get from that, and that's why that's kind of faded. But they did make like a Foundation show. I've heard it's not great, but they did make a Foundation show, and I think it's getting a second season.
One thing I wanted to interject real quick, guys, it's not adding to your debate at all, is the fact that much like Lovecraft is hard to translate onto film, because when a huge percentage of your story is told through inner monologue, that can be difficult to translate. And at least the first two books of Amber, especially the second one, even more so than the first one, there is a lot of inner monologue that's happening.
That's 100% true.
A lot of descriptions about a lot of things that you could take the first two books together of Amber and make one movie out of it, because if you take the inner monologues out, that's what you have. That's what you have there.
It's necessary in the first one
for storytelling reasons.
You have to discover it along with him, because otherwise you're also behind the foot of everybody that's in the thing. So I always respected that first book for that reason. I don't know if you could. It's weird to me. To me, you could tell a movie point one. There's like a little bit extra there that kind of pushes it past a full feature film for me. But then you can't do a second film, because then you only have point one of a movie.
Right.
So I can agree with that. There's enough there that you could almost trim it down to one, but not all the way, and I think that's another thing that's kept it from being presentable. Now we all say this, and just we don't know if this will become of anything, but Stephen Colbert's production group has the rights to Amber, and I think they're going forward, or they're tentatively going forward with trying to turn it into a series, which for these books I think would work. I think it's now that we're in the streaming, now that we're in the streaming era, there might be a much better way to get this onto print and film.
I can see this as
off of print onto film. Excuse me.
8 to 10 episodes.
I could see this as like maybe maybe seasons are like 6 episodes, because you don't want to like because these are short. Again, these are like novellas, and they might even, when you look whatever the page count is, you might actually dip into whatever is lower than a novella, lower in that the less pages, not necessarily lower as in worse or anything.
Also, if you take the half of the Chronicles, which is the first 5 books, and you take that whole story and take the books as chapters and not books themselves, and you have 5 huge chapters to pull from. Depending on how well you are at storytelling and doing transitions of flashbacks of different things happening with the first 5 books, you could stretch that out to 8 episodes a season and make it 3 to 5 seasons. I'm sure, probably.
I mean, basically, like, this entire, this book is the entirety of all 10 books, and it's only 1,258 pages.
1,200 pages,
which I have read.
Which Stephen King's The Stand then crushes it.
I've read. Pretty much every book in the Stormlight Archive has that many. Every volume has that many or more pages. Like, they have upwards of like 1,500 pages. So like, this is basically just like one big, it's almost, you can consider it one big huge novel,
right?
Almost. But something real quick I want, and if I don't get my get this thought out too clearly, we can cut this, it's fine. The idea, because when you talk about the effect that like things like Lord of the Rings had on, like, the movie wise, I think of things like Lord of the Rings and some other things in different genres, or music and things like that. There are things that come along that kind of break that genre, and I would argue that the books of Lord of the Rings break fantasy, because after that, everything almost becomes a shadow of that, or most everything.
Did you mean that as a pun about Amber?
No,
as a shadow of. I had to ask.
No, because everything comes as like a elves 9 times out of 10 are going to be written like Lord of the Rings elves. Right. Dwarves are going to be Lord of the Rings dwarves.
You're saying it troped. It added all the tropes.
It basically started
fantasy.
The tropes. You can argue that
it goes from trope to staple.
You can argue that Bob Marley did this for reggae. Like, reggae, everything is just a shadow of Bob Marley after Bob Marley. And that's kind of what I mean by kind of breaks that genre.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
And I feel like this one doesn't. Like, this one goes in a different direction, and that might be, I don't know, one of the reasons that it is not. I think clamored for as much.
I think and just maybe from again, if you're talking about executive level, if we're talking about executives at Disney, Warner Brothers, things like that. Do you want when do you take a chance and when do you not? Like, The Matrix was a huge chance.
Well, nowadays you don't take a chance.
But nowadays people don't take a chance. But even then, back then, like, The Matrix was a chance because it was Village Roadshow. Hell, the Lord of the Rings was a gamble.
It was.
It was a gamble. It was a gamble for New Line Cinema, it paid off. We've mentioned them very briefly. Like,
I think Lord of the Rings before then was thought to be kind of unfilmable, right?
It's unfilmable, yeah. But I look at, for all intents and purposes, look at Canon Films in the 80s. Canon took a huge bunch of chances. They had a bunch of big IPs, even for Superman. Maybe at that time the biggest superhero.
Oh yeah,
and they had him for Superman 4. It bombed. It was terrible. They had a lot of bet, and it ended up bankrupting Canon. And Canon went away. I think if you look at Amber, like you said, it's definitely not like they're. Even the fantastical creatures that you have, the way Corwin talks about them, until you get to the shadow creatures, which I think those are
more interesting.
And I think those are trumped up, no pun intended, to be more of a threat, so that when you see them, it's like, oh, like you as a reader just pause and go, oh. Like, some of his people are like insect people that have machine guns, and you would completely miss that if you don't hit the 2 lines that bring that up. I think it's something where, like, if you're going to do this, you are taking a risk because, like you said, it's not in the mold. It's out of the mold in the fantasy in the way in which, if Lord of the Rings did create that mold, this is outside of it.
Yeah.
Now, whether you think it's better or worse, I like it more than Lord of the Rings. Certainly, you can call me wrong. You can call me
I like
right.
the books more than I like the Lord of the Rings books.
Outside of the Amber,
I love the Hobbit. I I have only ever read the first Lord of the Rings because it's like reading a goddamn textbook.
It is. Outside of the IP of Amber, when you're talking about like taking a risk, they will take risks, low budget risks, and if something really like crazy happens and a low budget risks pays off, then you have like, okay, well, we've got to make a sequel now, and it turns into Sharknado 16.
Yeah, I think
then you just keep,
I think with this one it's a combination of it is not like it's loved, but it doesn't have like a following.
Yeah,
like they don't have.
It has a cult following.
They don't have Amberfest,
Yeah.
you know, like they have with Lord of the Rings.
Or they do, and we're going to get a very stern email from that one guy.
Yeah, you know who you are.
Yeah.
Zelazny is like the best kept secret in sci-fi slash fantasy.
I feel like also I get the I get the I get the notion that he is kind of an author's author.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Definitely.
Yeah, okay.
Like he's basically like the Steely Dan of authors. Like you might not be able to name a Steely Dan song, but all of your favorite fucking bands
right.
are big, huge fucking fans of Steely Dan.
Right. No, that checks 100%.
And I feel like it might be the same as
his influence
with Robert.
on other authors and other
I
creators.
expected possible mentions of Pink Floyd, a bunch of other, like prog rock era when we're talking about all these, shifting worlds and these vistas and all things. Steely Dan. Did not expect that to come up in this episode.
Well, I think that I gave a pretty good analogy.
No. Nail on head. 100%. I'm just saying, out of all the things, Steely Dan, and I would respect the point that brought it up. So good job. 100% good job. We're not cutting a single second of that. That was fucking fantastic.
That was good. It's good stuff.
Gentlemen.
Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
There you go. I got TEDx. I'll give you TEDx. I ain't giving you TED
Fuck
yet.
you.
I'm sorry. It's the way it is. So, Joe, are we ready?
I think
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, I'm
believe
gonna
so.
try this out. That's the bus arriving at the station.
Oh, nice.
Maybe that'll work. So
I
there
like
you go.
it.
Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for coming out to Travelers on the Omnibus. We'd like to thank some of our friends and fellow podcasters in the world. I'm going to start it out with Fearology, the #1 fear podcast on the internet. If you're not listening to that, you're not afraid. Be afraid. Be very afraid. JL Kite takes you through his personal history and opinions on horror. 9 Tales of Terror. Is that still the latest
That's the
episode?
last episode.
we
because
need to fix that.
I know.
God damn it. But yeah, no, it's seriously, you can tell Jody is a lover of horror. He is a connoisseur of horror, and one of my yes, he is my friend. I have to disclose that, or the SEC will fucking come after me. But I always enjoy sitting down to listen to some of that. Also, check out some of his experimental music. That's a good way to put it. From the Digital Devil, which I think is the 7 Friendly Sins. I listened to that after. I had my ass is on fire on my fucking phone just to get the taste of my ass is on fire out of my fucking
Yeah,
head.
you don't want to get the
sometimes
taste
you
of
got
that.
to.
you know.
Fearology on Spotify, Anchor, Google, and Amazon.
Yes.
The new saga.
The new saga.
There you go.
Okay.
Anybody who else
Whiskey
wants
and
to-
Wrestling is hosted by Michael Hill and Jason Holder. They avoid as much as they can when it comes to modern wrestling and still talk about it somehow. It's amazing. The Bloodline storyline is still going on, sort of, not really, probably. Cody Rhodes, WrestleMania. Yeah, check those guys out. They're on all the platforms.
I would like to bring up the Completed podcast with good friends Christopher Vega, Brennan Scott Tanner, and Brennan Smith, also known as B Money,
AKA Team Metamorph.
Team Metamorph. They talk about competitive Magic, the Magic landscape. They do set reviews. Again, that is the Completed podcast.
Silence Your Cell Phone is a podcast put out by Old Mother Hubbard and Kylie Minogue.
Thumbs up.
They talk about all kinds of like current releases, movies and TV shows and stuff like that, stuff that's on Netflix and streaming, and they do it on YouTube. And other places where you can find their. Sometimes they'll do it live too. Fuck it, they do it live.
Kylie Minogue is best known for her portrayal as Cammy in the Street Fighter live action movie.
That's the only thing Kylie Minogue.
She didn't do music. She was never in Bananarama.
The rumor is that Van Damme had an affair with her during Street Fighter
after he got married.
Yeah.
Oh,
No, I don't mean
that's
like
usually how an affair has to happen.
But I needed to stress the time. But I don't mean like. He was married 5 years.
Okay.
No,
just got married.
He got married, and Kylie Minogue was maybe his honeymoon, allegedly.
But
please don't sue me. Allegedly.
To be fair, it is Kylie Minogue.
Kylie Minogue dressed as Cammy.
Yeah.
Fair. That like.
Yeah.
No. True alphas are loyal to their women.
I agree. It is Kylie Minogue, though.
The sheer hatred coming out of your eyes right now.
If you call yourself an alpha, please don't listen to this fucking podcast. I don't want to hear from you.
Allegedly.
Sure.
And I refuse to call any generation alpha because we started with X, and I mean, couldn't we have another Lost Generation Part 2? All right, moving on.
Generation Alpha was like 980.
No. They're floating over, man. They're floating. The Zoomers, man. Generation Z, Generation A. We're a Generation A now.
Wouldn't we be Generation AA because we have to start with 2 letters now?
No. We
That's why
started
we
with
call it
Lost
alpha.
Generation.
Let's make it numbers. Let's make it Generation A1 and they'd be a steak sauce.
Yeah, there you go.
Ethan, bring up the fact Cameron's the only owner of Magnarm Gaming.
Oh yeah, Magnum Gaming, that exists. Only located.
We're literally inside of it right now.
Or were you in the shadow of McNorb Gaming?
Oh my God, we're in Amber Amber Narb Gaming.
Wamber Gaming.
Amber Narb Gaming.
Don't hurt yourself.
Whether it's Goshen, Mississippi, or a shadow of Goshen, Mississippi.
Which, strangely enough, is Goshen, Mississippi.
Yeah.
And I'm actually not being untruthful about that because that's how it works.
Yeah, Goshen doesn't cast a shadow. Goshen is the shadow.
It is the shadow. Check out McNub Gaming.
Oh my God. What road is your division down?
Mountain Bluff.
Martin Bluff is the black road.
Oh,
it is
yeah,
just
you're
torn
right.
up, torn up, gravelly.
We barely mentioned that.
Yes.
We talked about it.
Yeah, it was only a major portion of a very big part of the book.
Yeah, that's funny.
But yeah, McNub Gaming. If you want Pokemon codes, Magic codes, anything D&D related.
Do you want a fat red dragon?
Fat red dragon.
They got a chonk fat red dragon.
You want Yu-Gi-Oh? Go fuck yourself.
You want a lunchbox
Wait
of
a
the
minute.
animated?
Wait a minute. I need you. Wait a minute. I need you to repeat that line as Yu-Gi-Oh! Fuck yourself.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Fuck yourself.
There we go.
You see the sign that says you see the window that says Kaijudo. They don't got it.
No one does.
The game doesn't exist.
I've got an
anymore.
idea. Let's cut our cards into hexes and make them collectible. I think that's how it works.
I can see some amnesiac person.
Let's talk more about the things you can buy at MacNarc
Yes,
Gaming.
like Keyforge.
And puzzles and shit.
Keyforge.
No, they got rid of the Keyforge
They
too.
got rid of the Keyforge too.
Yeah,
You
nobody
can
bought
get
that.
puzzles and shit.
Yeah, puzzles and shit.
Puzzles and shit. Mm-hmm. Again,
Keyforge died because the algorithm that made the cards all died.
Oh yeah.
Do you think Ethan's mad at us for taking this whole bit from him, even though I suggested he be the one to do it?
Ethan is to the point
guys
where
take a lot
we've
of things
beaten
away
Ethan
from
down
me,
to
so-
where
Do you
he
hear
is
someone talking that's not you or me right now?
No, I don't.
Oh my
I
God.
only hear me talking.
No, don't leave.
Just you being here is enough.
He's mad as hell and he doesn't have to take this shit anymore.
Say that.
I'm mad.
Motherfucker.
Next episode, we're going to be going back to the chalkboard, ladies and gentlemen. With our
And the one after that, we're going to be watching Network so he knows what the fuck we're talking about.
Yeah, there you go. That's oh my God! Did
No,
you just,
we don't
okay,
have
thank
to.
God. Oh, thank God! I wasn't ready for like early '70s political.
Can you imagine an assassination on live television?
Nah, Network holds up. I've watched it in the last couple of years.
Truthfully, Network does hold up.
It does. It's fucked up.
Yeah.
But understandably
It's fucked
so.
up because it's
True.
very true.
There you go.
They knew what the fuck they were talking about.
But our next, again, is the chalkboard. It's first of our kind of negatively tinged chalkboards. We're going to be looking at the top 5 media that should have just stopped. It's time. It's time. Here's your wheelchair and your nursing home. Please go in here, these media properties. And so we're going to hit you with that next time, see what goes on with that. So, one time round the table, my name is James McCarthy.
I am Ethan Skinner.
I'm Jody Kate.
And I'm Brady Davis.
Jody, what should they do?
Watch more movies, read more books, play more video games, be more nerd.
Absolutely. And always, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for stopping by and enjoying the ride. Sorry we didn't plug you this time, Kevin.